Welcome to a presentation discussing the differences between a quantitative and a qualitative research. Let's talk about the key differences in their definitions. First off, in the qualitative research, we can see the word quality in it, and thus we can derive that this is a characteristics-based type of research. On the other hand, quantitative research, quantity, we can deduce that this is about numbers. A qualitative research asks the questions of why and how. Why an event may have happened, how could it have happened? Quantitative research asks the questions of what, where, and when. Thus, we are able to derive from this a set of facts, and those facts we can then quantify into numbers. In qualitative research, we are trying to understand the reasons, the opinions, or maybe motivations of people in different circumstances, whether it is about an experience they might have had or a phenomenon that they took part of. In the quantitative research, we are trying to quantify a problem so that later on we can provide a statistical treatment to it and use that statistical treatment to prove a point. A qualitative research type is exploratory, meaning that it can grow in on itself. The reason for this is because the reasoning is rather inductive, meaning that we go from a specific point of view, and as we collect more answers from participants, those answers are able to widen our perspective, thus rendering this an exploratory type. And as we go along, we may be able to generate more hypotheses from this research. And those hypotheses, we can even use it later on to be tested for quantitative research. Now, because we are dealing with participants one by one, a participant's point of view may not have any relationship at all to the other participants, thus our approach here is subjective. On the other hand, a quantitative research is a type of a conclusive research. We already have a hypothesis and thus we are testing it so that we may be able to derive a conclusion from it. And because we are going from a general and going more specific, the reasoning we use is a deductive type of reasoning. Because we are trying to get a conclusion, a general truth from a quantitative research, the approach we have here is rather objective. When it comes to their processes, in a qualitative research, our sampling size is small, and when we choose our participants, it is rather purposive. If we are talking about art students, then our participants may or may not be art students depending on our topic. If, for example, we are talking about the parents of art students, we will only try to look for those that are the parents of art students. Meanwhile, on a quantitative research, even though we have a target population, the way we get them may be random. If, for example, we are only targeting the residents of the Greater Metro Manila area, it doesn't matter if the person we may be targeting is a computer engineer or a banker, just as long as he or she fits under our target population, then we may be able to get him or her as a participant. And because of this, we have a larger population size. Now for the data collection. In the qualitative research, it is rather unstructured or semi-structured. In our interviews or maybe immersing ourselves in a specific culture, when we have a question, we are able to probe more on that question if we need be. Meanwhile, in a data collection, it is structured in its surveys, online polls, and laboratory experiments. What you see on the paper is what you stick to. When it comes now to the data analysis, in a qualitative research, we are looking at words, be it verbal from interviews or written from diaries or maybe even pictures, symbols from photographs. Those are the things that we look at. Meanwhile, on a quantitative research, we are looking at numerical data. From the surveys that we collected, we tallied those into tally sheets and later rendered them into statistical treatments. As we have said earlier, a qualitative research is exploratory, and it's because its main objective is that to explore and discover new things. It results in the initial or maybe even more in-depth understanding of a particular subject of interest. Meanwhile, on a quantitative research, we are trying to determine the cause and effect between variables. What is the relationship of A to B? And because we are trying to find the relationship, we can therefore get some results that recommend some final course of action. If we find the cause and effect or the relationship between smoking and lung related problems, then we can recommend a final course of action on how we can prevent those lung related problems through the quitting of smoking. Let us consider this example. Due to the popularity of fast food chains now and cheaper food alternatives that are not really healthy for a human being, you observe that there are more overweight people. In your neighborhood, you count that there are 15 out of 50 who are overweight, and 6 of these already in the obese zone, and another just a little over the overweight zone. You measure this by how much they are heavier than the average weight of Filipinos. For example, their average weight is 80 kilograms compared to the 61.3 kilograms that is the average weight of Filipino men. So that gives you a 23.5% more. That example would be quantitative. But now, what if instead of just asking those people to answer about their vital statistics, you sit down with each one of them or maybe around just 5 or 7 and ask their thoughts, the reason they might have gotten overweight and how they feel about it, how their family members feel about it and their friends as well. Now if we consider that example, now that we have is a qualitative research. Some example researches in different topics. For the arts, we can have a relationship between art and frustration. This could be a topic for qualitative research. Meanwhile, the popularity of art styles among millennials could be a topic that could be of interest for quantitative research. How much percentage of millennials prefer the Baroque styles or maybe the classical styles? Another in humanities and languages. What are the opinions of non-English speaking Filipino youth on their English speaking counterparts? And then for quantitative, the percentage of Filipinos who are bilingual. For the sports, we can have the motivations and reasons of basketball athletes to why they play. Why do they continue playing basketball? And how about the training and diets of athletes that work? Among the many kinds of trainings that athletes perform and use, what training could yield the highest percentage of improvement among them? There are many more example researches that we can discuss on a very numerous number of subjects. That is all for today. Thank you very much for watching.